For those of you who've played Hogwarts Legacy, you know it's the game that Harry Potter fans have always dreamed about. Honestly, I made a video about it in early 2018, how an open world game for Hogwarts is a must. Is it the best game I've ever played? Well, no, but its story and its world just made me feel something beyond what a normal video game does. I love the experience, I love the storyline, and now that I'm close to 100%ing the game, I want to take a look at what these characters could be in live action. Of course, just for fun, but I always felt like the characters within the story, specifically a couple of them, really felt great. Sebastian, Professor Weasley, they really stood out and felt like more than just traditional video game characters. So today we're going to take a look at who could play them in live action. I'm going to take a little bit more at the professors, but if you're interested, I can do a part 2 talking about the keepers and of course the students of Hogwarts. And of course we are leaning into UK-based actors because it's Harry Potter and it's just British. So today let's tackle Professor Fig, Black, Sharp, Weasley, Rockwood, Ronan, and Ranrock. So let's cast Hogwarts Legacy for live action. First off, it's almost impossible to cast the main character of this series, because by design, everyone has their character that they customize. So rather than casting just my avatar and how I chose him to look, I am going to ignore the main character completely. But if you'd like to see a video on who could work in this role, as well as a couple options, let me know and I can do that in the future. Other than that, let's start with Professor Fig. Now with Professor Fig, it's clear that they tried to recreate that Dumbledore gentle touch. Someone who feels warm, welcoming, but also has that little bit of distrusting nature. Fig is pretty much there to be a person to talk to, someone to be guidance, and really just have confidence in you. Of course, we need an older actor, but someone who has that little bit of a sad kind of feeling to them, especially with the recent loss of his wife. But someone who hasn't given up and really lives in her memory. Now, I had a list of a couple actors who I think would work really well here, and Jonathan Pryce and Mark Rylance I think would work both beautifully. But I ended up deciding on Gabriel Byrne, who is an Irish actor, but definitely has the right feel for Fig. Someone I can definitely buy into being in a position of power in Hogwarts, but be the defenses against Ranrock. He definitely has the softness and the sadness that he's really hiding behind his eyes, and since he's had such a long career and a lot of variation, I think he'd be perfect to really bring on this role, but also not be too big of an actor to really just see the actor here.
May I?
Of course. Most of these I could not bear to leave behind. I sold everything that I want to get my passage to come here, but my books, never.
Now obviously in this clip you can see Gabe is an Irish actor and you can see his accent, but he can definitely do other things like the British accent as well. But in this clip you can really get that feeling, that softness of Fig. I think he's got the right age and the right feeling for this. So Gabriel Byrne as Professor Fig. Next up, let's do Professor Black, the sharp but blunt headmaster, who seems a little bit blind and naive of what's happening really around him. He's got this lure of dumbfoundedness, and someone who doesn't really feel warranting of the position that they're in. Of course, he's a little bit mean and cold, but he does have this power behind him. Now, it is a cop-out decision because Simon Pegg already voices the character, but you can definitely tell that his likeness is really the main driving force for the image as well. And since Simon Pegg is one of the best actors who has yet to appear in Harry Potter, I feel like this would work great. He isn't the typical character that he'd play here, but I think he'd play into this wonderfully in live action.
Look, I appreciate your position, Mr. Webley, but you can't go around chopping down other people's hedges without permission.
I suppose.
Yes, I suppose. Thank you.
So Simon Pegg as Professor Black. Next up we have Professor Sharp, a younger professor, but one who feels like they have a backstory as a former Auror. And for some reason, he really stood out to me. He's stern, walks with a limp, and has this approach that he's lived a crazy life. I went with Joseph Kloska, who's more of a theater performer right now, but definitely has the look and I can buy into him in this role. I can see him in a darker, more grumpy version of himself, and really buying into this. I know it's not the biggest role, but I think that Joseph would do really wonderful here.
What if we killed the rider?
We?
So Joseph Kloska as Professor Sharp. Next up, let's do Victor Rockwood, the secondary antagonist of the story, someone who always just felt a little evil for the sake of being evil. He's got this little bit of sniveling, creepy vibe to him, but I feel like he could be a little bit more well-rounded if we cast the right actor. And there's a man who's perfected this over really the last decade. Aidan Gillen has been doing versions of this for years, and honestly, he's a big name and face to pull people in. I think he'd grab Rockwood and almost elevate him. Someone that would make the character a little bit more believable in my eyes. He's got that perfect snivelly nature, but also calculated. It would seem like he's doing things for his own good.
If
I'm going to be honest, I did feel an unmistakable sense of enjoyment there.
But your confidant, the one who fed you information about my plans, the one you swore to protect, you didn't bring her any enjoyment. And she didn't bring me any enjoyment. She was a bad investment on my part.
So Aidan Gillen is Victor Rockwood. Next up, let's do Professor Ronan, who might be my favorite of the professors in this series. His jovial nature, his welcoming face, his really shining personality. I want someone who feels like that fun teacher that he is, and someone you can really connect with. Although it's never stated in the video game, it's clear he's on the older side. To really nail that energy, I decided to go a little bit younger. Of course, he can be aged up to look older, but Sanjeev Bhaskar is my pick. I know he's only 60 right now, but sprinkle a little white in his hair and I think he works even better. He's from the UK and is known for his comedic timing, but he's got that vibrant personality that works well, and I think he can really lean into that in this role.
Well, this is weird. A graduation without graduates feels like swimming in just your socks. You can do it, but it just feels weird.
So Sanjeev Bhaskar as Professor Ronan. Next up, let's do Professor Weasley. Now, much like Molly and really the Weasley family in general, there's this real warmth to her. She feels concerned and seems like she would take on the problem of her students, especially with her nephew and obviously the main character. She has this patience, this poise, and although she definitely feels like a lovely older woman, you can see that there would be a storm that would happen if she was angry. Now with this role, I went with Emily Watson, who, yes, I did cast previously in the Founders video, but I think she just would work wonderfully here. There's something about her nature that just feels like it would fit perfectly. That calm, reassuring presence. She's a really great classic actress, and in a role like this one that I think that could be expanded, she'd fit really wonderfully.
I know about Chernobyl.
Oh?
I know that the core is either partially or completely exposed.
Whatever that means.
And that if you don't immediately issue iodine tablets and then evacuate the city, hundreds of thousands of people are going to get cancer, and God knows how many more will die.
So Emily Watson as Professor Weasley. Lastly, we have the big bad of this whole series. Now, Ranrock doesn't have a lot to go on, much like Rockwood, just evil for the sake of being evil. He wants to take magic back from the wizarding world to see goblins in more of a favorable light, which is an interesting idea, but without his own perspective, it's just that, an idea. It doesn't really evolve. Of course, within live action, we could dive more into that. My first thought was Ron Perlman, but after remembering he had a role in Fantastic Beasts as a goblin, that's probably why I thought of him in this role. But I do intend to have that same kind of flavor, that motion capture, that fully CGI, and someone that doesn't necessarily look like a goblin, but has that look and the right feel for this. We need someone rough, tough, but also older. I went with an atypical choice, Jonathan Banks. He's perfect age and has that annoyance vibe. I can see that something's been boiling under his skin for so long, and also has a look that I think could be adapted well. He seems a little bit like a goblin, both with his mannerisms and his voice, but he has that level of anger to him. I don't mind that he's not from the UK as well. I think it helps bridge that gap from the wizarding world and goblin world, but he seems like the right choice here for me.
We had a good thing, you stupid son of a bitch. You could have shut your mouth, cooked, and made as much money as you ever needed. It was perfect, but no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man. If you'd done your job, known your place, we'd all be fine right now.
So Jonathan Banks as Ranrock. So there are my choices for Hogwarts Legacy. Do you want to see a part 2? Do you want me to dive into the Hogwarts students? Or even the keepers themselves? Let me know in the comments below. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.